Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Canna Partners Canna News Break. The big news last week was the House passing a marijuana legalization bill, and I think people kind of got ahead of themselves, assuming that legalization was right around the corner, that the Senate was going to take it up, Biden was going to sign it, and I think everybody needs to take a big step backwards and just kind of look at the reality of things. The reality is we have a runoff in Georgia that will decide who controls the Senate. If it doesn't go the Democrats' way, I don't see a scenario where the Mitch McConnells or the Mike Crapos of the world even consider cannabis legalization over the next 4 years. If the Democrats do win, depending on how close the margin, if it comes to a tiebreaker, I think those same people on the other side will do everything possible to delay or postpone or stop cannabis legislation from coming to the floor. So it's not a slam dunk. I think some people are reacting to. It's a very largely symbolic vote. But as far as practicality of any real meaning, that really remains to be seen. And there's no guarantee. You know, Joe Biden's son has a history of addiction problems, and we don't really know how that's going to affect Mr. Biden's outlook on legalization. He has been adamantly opposed to cannabis legalization his entire political life. He opportunistically softened that stance in the next election after seeing public opinion polls, like most politicians do. But it's no slam dunk that he signs any kind of broad-ranging legalization bill. I do expect him to sign decriminalization and expungement of records and things like that. But I don't. The industry seems to think that it's a slam dunk is coming, and I think it's at best a coin flip whether we get that. But that aside, the Congressional Budget Office did a report, and they said, and their estimates are that legalizing cannabis at a federal level would add about $13.7 billion in tax revenues net over the next decade. And this is net additional tax revenue. This takes into account additional spending that would take. You know, there would be obviously there'd be a massive new government bureaucracy that would help monitor cannabis sales. There's a cost there. If they let all these prisoners out of prison, which they should, there would be an immediate addition to Medicare payments and Medicare programs, because they're not eligible for them in prison, but outside of prison they become eligible for those programs. So there would be some spending offsets, but they think roughly $13.7 billion to the federal budget over 10 years. And I'm going to go back to what we've always said from day one, that every estimate you will see on sales and tax revenues of cannabis is going to be too low. All we have to do is go back and look at the industry estimates over the last 3 or 4 years. I think it was 4 years ago they were saying in 2025 would be at 17 million, and I think now it's 17 billion. Now I think it's $35 billion we're going to be at in annual sales in cannabis in the U.S. in 2025, and that's just over a 3 to 4 year time frame. So this number is ridiculously low. We know it's going to be really low, but the good news is that at least the federal government is realizing a net financial positive to legalizing cannabis. So that was on the moral vote. But I think more importantly, this second vote really didn't get much publicity at all. It was the vote about legalizing cannabis research. We really need research into cannabis, because we've said here countless times that we haven't even begun to touch or scratch the surface of what this plant can do medicinally, and we need robust studies from universities and colleges to really examine just how beneficial this plant can be. Notice I said how beneficial, not whether or not it is. We already know it is. We already know there's massive societal benefits to legalizing the plant. We know it reduces drinking, it reduces opioid use, it reduces sleep medicine use, it reduces over-the-counter pain medicine use, it reduces prescriptions for pain, sleep, anxiety. We know this to be fact already, so we already know there's benefits. But as far as how beneficial it could be to your body, what other medicines other than Epidiolex for epilepsy can we develop that will really just give the world the knowledge that this, in fact, is a miracle plant that can be broken down, and those pieces that can be broken down to are incredibly beneficial to the human body. So I applaud this vote. I think a vote like this probably has a lot more chances of going through and getting approved because it's research, right? They're not selling it, it's research. And a lot of the opposition or those people who are opposed to it will openly admit that they're opposed to it out of ignorance, that they don't know what they can do, and they want studies to prove its efficacy, and then they'll be happy to vote for it. So this is a huge first step, and it wasn't really talked about it much. But if this one thing passed, this research bill, and we started on a large scale, like a really large scale, started researching what this plant can do, we'd find the same thing that Israeli researchers have known for decades now. There's very little this plant can't be helpful for. Right? There's Israeli research that it kills cancer cells, it stops tumor growth, so that the medicine that doctors giving you for tumors can kill and destroy the tumors. It's Crohn's disease, weight loss. I mean, you could go on and on and on the conditions that this plant is beneficial for. The Israelis know it; they've done it for years, but the FDA won't accept any studies out of the U.S. That's just the way it works. So it is what it is. It's a system we got to work in. So this bill is huge. We hope it really passes, and we hope that it gets some support from both sides of the aisle, because it'll answer a lot of questions for those congressmen who are holdouts, those states that are holdouts, and it'll really just back what those of us in the industry and those of us who've been reading the data for years already know, that this is a miracle plant. It should be researched. It should be studied, because if we can build medicine from a plant that is non-addictive, you can't overdose on. I mean, if we could seriously put a dent in the opioid epidemic in this country with a plant, we have a moral obligation to do everything humanly possible to research it and understand it and see if it's true or not. We really do. I mean, it's a moral responsibility of this nation to do this. So we hope it goes through. We'll keep track of it, and we hope that something happens with this. So that's it for today. Have a great day, everybody.